If you were told you had 10 minutes to pack your valuables and get out because of a fire or a flood or something coming, what would you take? People get really clear out of all their belongings what really matters to them. You need to think about it that way online. What in your online life, what do you need to protect? What would ruin your day, your year, or your life if it got hacked into and drained or locked you out? And those are the ones you want to put the important time into. So you want to ask yourself if you have a strong, unique password for each important account. You want to say, am I using a password manager? Welcome, smart people, to Smarter Online Safety, the podcast that empowers and equips you to be smarter and safer online. I'm your host, Jocelyn King, the Queen of Online Safety, and today we are tackling an important and today we're tackling an important topic for International Change Your Password Day. That's right, it's time to talk about passwords, the first line of defense for keeping you, your family, your business, and your assets safe online. So, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to cover why Change Your Password Day matters as a prompt. We're going to talk about how to create strong passwords that are easy to remember. And I'm going to give you some pro tips for managing your passwords like a smarter online safety pro. So, settle in. Let's make your world a lot safer. So why change your password day matters. 81% of data breaches, 81, are caused by weak or reused passwords. Think about that. More than 8 out of 10 breaches could potentially be avoided if people simply used better password practices. 8 out of 10. Cyber criminals also are getting more sophisticated every day. They use techniques like brute force attacks, credential stuffing, and phishing to steal your passwords and access your accounts. And once they're in, they can drain your bank accounts, steal your identity, or even hold your data hostage with ransomware. And now they've got a powerful helper in all the AI tools that are helping them. So changing your passwords regularly, at least for the critical accounts like your bank account, your personal email, your social media, your retirement account, social security, things like that, it makes it much harder for hackers to gain access. And no, I'm not saying that you need to change every password every week or every month, but at least once a year, right? And ideally, you're doing it every time a season changes. Think about that. Back in the day, we used to have a thing in the US where in the spring and fall, you'd replace batteries in your smoke detectors because you had to do it every 6 months. And that was an easy way to remember. Well, when you hear that, hey, it's the first day of spring, it's like, oh, I need to change my most important passwords. That can be a good prompt. Or, if you want to do it monthly on some key accounts, then the first of every month. So, but have a plan for how often you're going to do it and use prompts like International Password Day to remind you to do your annual checkup on your passwords. Think of it as spring cleaning for your online digital life. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is how do you create strong passwords that are easy to remember? You know, I get it. It can sometimes feel like it's easier for hackers to hack into your account than for you to log into your account. And, if you're tired of constantly resetting your passwords or you really want to stop reusing passwords, listen up. Now, I know what you're thinking. Creating strong passwords is such a pain, but hear me out. It really doesn't have to be. And there's a few tips I'm going to give you that you can choose from. First of all, why do passwords need to be strong, right? Because there's all this computing power going on to help break into your accounts. So it's not somebody sitting there thinking of 1,000 ways. There's this, speed of light calculation going on to come at your account with different known common passwords like password 123. Um, Once they find out what your birthday is, your kids' names, your pet names, those all get scraped. Again, nobody's doing hard work. It's all being done by software programs. So they're scraping your social media account for pets' names and kids' birthdays and things, and then coming up with, hundreds of combinations of those. And usually we're not picking the hardest when we use those. So it's easier to crack and then they can get in. So you want to, first of all, so you want to not use those types of things, your birth date, your pet's name, and things like that. You want to make your password longer. So you want to aim for 12 to 16 characters. That's the ideal. You want to use a combination. And a lot of these days, it's really hard to find like financial institutions and things that don't require you to do this, but you often need uppercase and lowercase letters. You need numbers and you need special symbols unless they tell you they don't accept special symbols, but like at signs, hashtags, the pound symbol, percentage, exclamation mark, things like that. The other thing that is a pro tip is to use symbols to replace words. So for instance, I'm not saying to use this one, but if you were going to use password as your password, you would use an uppercase P. So you always want to start your password with an uppercase letter, or you want to have an uppercase letter theme somewhere in your password. But instead of an A, you'd use the at symbol. And instead of two S's, you could use the $ symbol, which looks like an S with a line through it. And then W, and then instead of zero, instead of an O, it would be a zero. RD exclamation mark. Now, do not use this password, but that's an example of how you can use an at to replace an a zero to replace an O, $ to replace an S. You get the drift. So when you start doing that, it can seem stronger. But again, this is predictable, and these are some known techniques. So they're stronger than just using words, but let's take it a step higher. You can also use past phrases. That's a great way. So if you love things like you love hiking in the mountains, you can turn it into I love hiking in the mountains. And then you're going to, instead of an I, you're going to use a one. You're going to use an uppercase L. Instead of an O, you're going to use a zero. VE, the next letter, you're going to start with an uppercase. So hiking would be capital H, and then you can just spell out hiking. And then you can use a one for an I for in. And so you can see where I'm going. You create a pattern and you say, I love hiking in the mountains, exclamation mark, but you've used at symbols and ones and zeros to replace letters. And that's a really much better way than the way most people are doing it. Another pro tip then is don't reuse passwords when you come up with, like, maybe I love hiking in the mountains is for your Sierra Club account. I love saving, you know, I love, my rich retirement is going to be your password for your retirement account or something like that. So doing things like that, having passphrases is far better than using password 123, your pet's name, or any of these very common passwords. Okay. And if you feel overwhelmed by all the accounts you need to secure, then just prioritize your high risk ones. Just start with your banking, email, and work accounts. I routinely say if they hack into your AAA account, they might get a free tow. But if they hack into your IRA or 401k, game over. That's a different story. They can drain your account. And if you have done something that allows them to get in, you're not covered. A lot of people think, oh, well, my bank will replace it. Well, there's a big difference between that and, your credit cards having somebody stealing your number and stuff through some transaction and using it. They will cover you for that. But if you're doing things and you're clicking on phishing, you're not always covered. And in most cases, you're not covered. So you want to be very careful because you can lose a lot of money and it's not worth it. So let's get into some more of the pro tips. These are just basics to get you thinking about how to see your passwords differently and to start thinking smarter about your passwords. So the other question is, how do you keep track of passwords and how could you get help creating really strong passwords? Well, I'm a huge fan of password managers. What is a password manager? So this is a secure app that stores all your passwords in a private encrypted vault. So these are things like 1Password, LastPass, NordPass. There's several. They're all safer than you trying to store them in a document or in your brain or in your, on post-it notes around your laptop, or even those saving things in your browsers can sometimes, it's safer than writing it down in other ways, but a password manager that is multiple encrypted and is dedicated just to storing your passwords is going to be the most secure. Also, storing it in your browsers and stuff doesn't help you for your apps that you're getting into on your phone. And some people, access over 90% of their accounts are accessed through their phone, not when they're on a computer, on a browser. So, or even on their phone, they're not doing it through a browser, they're doing it through the app. So you really, really, really need to, have secure ones that are easy to copy and paste in, but stored in a highly secure vault. Think of a bank vault. That's where you want to be putting your passwords. And that's what a password manager is. So they not only store your passwords, but they can also generate strong, unique ones for you. So they can give you a long string of gibberish numbers and text that are meaningless and are impossible to guess. So you're not guessing or writing them down when you're having to try to remember them. So they will generate those for you and they will store them. And then all you do is open your app when you're going to log in and you click on open and fill, and it will put your login name and your unique password that's unique only to that account into your login for you and take you right in faster than you can do it yourself, and certainly faster than resetting your password. And many offer free versions. So you can buy them from 30 to 50 or $80 if you're doing it for, your entire family or multiple people. The free versions are also really good. Now, one of the questions I get a lot is, yes, but if they break into, aren't I at risk if they break into that? And so this is what you want to do. You want to create a really strong password using a password phrase or the kind of password, um, the kind of password hints I was telling you earlier, to create one really strong password. And then you want to change that every season or every month, but more than once a year. And by getting into that, you're going to have all your passwords in one place and easy to access. I often am asked, yeah, but can't they get hacked? Well, could they get hacked? Here's what happens. Think of it as multiple vaults. Like, it's kind of like, in the old world, you had to get past past the moat, over the drawbridge, through the walls, into the keep in the center. That's what these are. There's multiple layers of protection. So you'd have to have the uh, the ability to hack through all those, and it's virtually impossible. There was some calculation of how like 100 years it would take to go through all the possible combinations to get in. So it's multiple layers of encryption. And here's the bottom line: I work with some of the top hackers in the world. The people who work for the Fortune 100 companies and the government and Wall Street and the billionaires who have to keep all these bad guys out from all of these crown jewels. And they use password managers. And now they might use some things a little differently. And of course, they do things that you're not going to be doing. But if they're using them and trusting them, then until you surpass their ability, then use them. You'd have to get so good and be such a hacker yourself that you're going to come up with some other way to do it. And who wants to do that kind of work? You're not here to learn cybersecurity. You're here to be safer online. So make it safer and make it simpler. So here are some things you want to ask yourself. Do I have a strong, unique password for each of my important accounts? Think of your bank account, your credit union, your retirement account, your trading accounts like E-Trade and things like that. Your You can add your insurance accounts. You could add your Social Security.gov account. You can add any of those accounts. Also think about where you have valuables, such as where you have all your file storage and photos. Because if you lose those photos, or you have a ransomware attack where you're locked out, how devastating would it be if you could not get them, if you could not retrieve them, or if you had to pay a king's ransom for them to get back in? And even if you pay it, you may or may not get back in. So think of all the things that you really want to protect. Think the way to look at passwords for the accounts you want to protect is very much like if you were told you had 10 minutes to pack your valuables and get out because of a fire or a flood or something coming, what would you take? People get really clear out of all their belongings what really matters to them. You need to think about it that way online. What in your online life, what do you need to protect? What would ruin your day, your year, or your life if it got hacked into and drained or locked you out? And those are the ones you want to put the important time into. So you want to ask yourself if you have a strong, unique password for each important account. You want to say, am I using a password manager? Have you enabled two-factor authentication wherever possible? And have you updated your passwords for critical accounts this year? If you answered no to any of these, then make today the day you take action. Your future safer self is going to thank you. So that's it for today's episode of Smarter Online Safety. And remember, change your password day is more than just a day. It is a reminder and it's an opportunity. It's your chance to take control of your online security. Start small, make a plan, but take action. So if you found today's tips helpful, share this episode with someone who could use a little password TLC. And don't forget to subscribe to get more episodes packed with practical advice and some exciting upcoming guests to help keep you smarter and safer online. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, stay safe out there.